individuals. So that basically focusing on topics that directly impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money, including your decisions in your personal life that impact your money. Because that, as much as you have saved, as much as you have made, if you make a bad decision in your personal life, you end up spending all of the money, all the effort that you put into it is gone. So we try to fix that for you guys by helping you guys find another way to get through the things that you need to get through in life. So with that being said, today's topic we're going to be covering piggybacks off of yesterday's topic, because a lot of people find themselves in these toxic relationships and they don't know how to get out of them. Whether it's a toxic relationship with your romantic partner, you could have a toxic friendship, you could have toxic engagements with family, your workplace. There's a lot of different places where toxicity can exist, and there are reasons why you choose not to remove yourself from that environment. You know what I'm saying? So what we want to do is we want to start today by asking you guys a pretty simple question that turns into a very complex scenario, so that you guys can really wrap your minds around what you're allowing yourself to go through on a day-to-day basis. So hang out with us, because we don't have a lot for you today, but we actually have at least enough to cover an hour and a half worth of tonight's stuff. So if you guys have any questions that you want to ask, whether you're on Twitter or Twitch, or you're on the shorts reel in YouTube, if I popped up on your For You page, I'm gonna be here for a couple hours. So you might as well hang out, because I'm at the top and the bottom of your scrolling. And if you're on the long form where you chose this on purpose, then no matter how it works out, because actually, from what I understand, YouTube has combined the comment sections. So the shorts reel can communicate with the long form's comment section, and everybody can see what everybody's talking about. But if you do comment, you'll see it on the bottom of the screen if you are in the 16:9 view, and then you'll see it at the top of the screen if you are in the 9:16 view. So either way it goes, you'll know what's going on, because all of the conversations from all of the different channels, I will be rolling them up there appropriately, depending upon what's being said by the individual. So you will be able to see what's said from a different platform, because everybody's watching us at the same time. In addition to that, if you're watching us on Twitch or on Twitter, you can get the entire archive of this channel off of the YouTube channel. So I recommend that you tiptoe over there and hit that subscribe button, and then also like the shows that you're watching from over there as well. So let's get started with a pretty straightforward question. Have you ever felt like you were screaming at yourself to leave, but your feet just wouldn't move? The relationship that is already toxic. You can definitely tell it. Like, you don't have to guess. And it's draining your soul, but the idea of actually cutting ties feels completely and utterly impossible, right? It's a kind of paralysis that no one on the outside of your situation seems to get. They say things like, just leave, or you deserve so much better. And they're right, but logically, while that makes perfect sense, they don't see the invisible chains holding you in place. And they don't understand that for you, it is not that simple. Most people assume this is about a lack of willpower, maybe even a sign of weakness. But the truth is, you're caught in a carefully built trap. It's not one single lock on the door. It's a tangled web of hidden forces, psychologically, financially, and even traps tied to your very identity, all working together to keep you right where you are. We had a tower go down, and they've been trying to put that tower back together. So it supposed to be glitching through. They said that they're going to get it fixed eventually, but they've been saying that for 2 years. So I don't know. Because yesterday we were at 0.01 upload speed and like 7 download speed, and that's not even like kilobytes per second. That's like kilobytes per hour. I was like, dang, we literally have no network. But it comes back eventually, and when it does, the frames catch up. I try my best not to go too far to prevent you guys from missing out on anything. I do move at a pretty steady and stable pace. Welcome to AOL, bro. I am having flashbacks of the original dial-up system, which I think right now is way faster than my 5G network. Just gonna be honest with you, but we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. So eventually, either we're going to end up in a scenario where we relocate to a better network, or they're gonna get this shit together. One of the two. We're gonna try to figure it out. So if you guys have been beating yourselves up, wondering what is wrong with me and why can't I just go, uh, I need you guys to hear this loud and clear, that you are not weak for staying in a toxic relationship. You are not broken for finding this hard to move on. And you are having a perfectly normal reaction to a complex system of control that's designed to make leaving feel impossible. Oh, he said, I used to hustle AOL in high school. True. I would go around selling the CD-ROMs. Yeah, that was like 30 years ago, 20 years ago. It's a long time. Uh, we find ourselves proactively finding more efficient ways to make money than standing somewhere to having somebody boss us around all the time. And we actually find ourselves making more money doing what we're doing than what we do uh, waiting for somebody else to tell us what to do. But there are some people who prefer to turn their brains off and follow instructions and get paid by the hour for their presence than to go and make money and then make money for them so that they don't have to be standing still. It's a different dynamic. I mean, I got a buddy who decided to get into health insurance and selling, no, not health insurance, life insurance, and selling life insurance. And while he's selling life insurance, he is still working on his primary job, selling life insurance on the side, and uh, barely making ends meet. He doesn't have that surplus of capabilities where he could stand on his own and be the sole income in his household. He still has to subsidize two other incomes in order to make ends meet. And it just goes to show that the situation is hard in today's society, which also is one of the reasons why we don't pull ourselves out of certain toxic relationships, because we're financially entangled into someone else. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So today we're going to pull back yet another curtain and look at every single one of the hidden forces where feel free to hang out, ladies, because we're not going to point fingers at you. This is one of the oh, that's what's going on. Oh, like what's going on? Is the thing powering down? This is one of the reasons why people are not pulling out of the relationships that they get themselves into. We're going to be, because it's not just one single force. There's several situations at play here. We're going to be exploring some of the mind games, but there are also the real world barriers and the deep seated beliefs that keep you tied to, right? Because once you can see these traps clearly, once you can give them a name, you'll finally understand that it's not you specifically, it's the trap itself that you're caught in. And seeing the trap for what it is, that's the first step to planning your escape and taking your life back into your own hands. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's gonna happen. There's gonna be some frame changes, drop frames throughout the show, because I mean I can't control when it happens. But I'm not moving too fast for you. You can always stick with us. From what I hear, there's supposed to be a limited quantity of buffering that's happening. That then you have to catch up. So you will experience a delay, and then after you start running, then I will already be trailing, and you will just catch up to me once they get the system together. It's it Well, you can only imagine how bad it would have been if we would have been at freaking 1080p high definition 3D. You would be buffering, but I'm not. But I can see myself, and when I see myself freeze, I kind of slow down a little bit because I know that eventually you're going to see me freeze, and then you're going to tell me that I'm frozen when I've unfrozen already. So I'm paying attention to it on both the 16 by 9 because I see us on the 16 by 9 and I also see us on the 9 by 16. So I am well aware of the freezes, but I'm not going to provide too much information while I'm frozen where you won't hear it or you won't see it coming. So I will make sure that I double back on that. If I ever see that I stop moving in the frames, I will double back to make sure that you guys get the information. So no worries, you won't miss anything on this show, even if we're dealing with a poor network. So to the outside world, the open doors look wide open, right? But for you, it feels like it's sealed shut by invisible locks that you can't find the keys for. So these are the psychological traps, and they are the most insidious because they work by rewiring your brain, making you feel like you're an active participant in your own entrapment. So one of the first traps that we have to deal with, this one is actually going to involve people. It's trauma bonding and the addiction to the cycle. So the most powerful force holding you back in a lot of situations is likely something called a trauma bond. This isn't love, but it's masked as it, and you can assume and interpret it as love. But instead, it's actually an unhealthy attachment that forms from a repeated cycle of abuse followed by sudden affection. Now, the person who is the source of all of your pain also becomes the only person that you believe can offer you relief. So if you think about it, a huge fight breaks out, they say terrible things or give you the silent treatment, and you feel worthless and terrified. The tension builds until it's unbearable. Then, right when you hit your breaking point, they switch. They apologize, they shower you with praise, or tell you how much they need you. This is that love bombing effect, right? In that moment of making up, your brain is flooded with powerful chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin. It's a rush, a high of relief that feels amazing. Your nervous system, which was on high alert, now links that person with the feeling of calm and safety. So, over time, this cycle of abuse, tension, and apology relief becomes incredibly addictive. You're not addicted to the person themselves, you're addicted to the highs and lows of the cycle. The good times feel so good because the bad times are so awful. A healthy, stable kindness starts to feel boring because your body has been trained to think that drama and intensity means passion and love. Uh, he said, while is everything so dark? I don't know. Why is everything? Turn your lights on. If you can turn your lights on, then you can see. Or take the blindfold off, and then you'll be able to see. Uh, but if this information sounds familiar, that's the feeling of walking on eggshells, followed by that dazzling relief when they're nice again. That's the trauma bond at work. It's a manipulative pattern, whether they do it consciously or not. That makes you crave validation from the very person who is destroying your self worth. You start to believe you need them to feel okay because they've created a world where they are both the poison and the only antidote at the same time. Number two, the second trap. This is an intermediate reinforcement. This is a slot machine of hope. Tied directly to that trauma bond is a powerful principle called intermediate reinforcements. It's the same exact thing that gets people hooked on slot machines. And it's the one that is the strongest motivator known to psychology. If you see, I saw it that time. If you pulled a lever on a slot machine and won every time, you'd get bored. If you never ever won, you would just walk away. But because you win just enough at completely random times, you can keep pulling that lever, convinced the next time will be a big win. And this is just one more try away before you get it. This is what happens in a toxic relationship. If the person was cruel and abusive 100% of the time, leaving would be much easier of a decision for you. But they aren't. They mix in just enough kindness, just enough charm, just enough of that person you first met to keep you hoping, right? Now, these aren't the moments of intermediate reinforcement. Or I'm sorry, these are exactly those moments of intermediate reinforcement where they're providing you with more false senses of hope, more uh, short senses of disappointment. And then with these apologies, that seems genuine. The one good week after a month of fighting, the unexpected compliment after days of criticism. It's almost like the calm after the storm. These moments are just enough to feed your hope. What does he say? 56,000 modem. I don't think that applies here. 64 uh, Commandor. Is that like a game? You broke and can't afford to leave. Well, there is a scenario that does happen with that. First and foremost, and we're going to get to that later on. But first and foremost, you end up in a situation where you barely got enough money to take care of yourself. You get involved with somebody else. You move them into your standard of living. Y'all actually work together at first and upgrade your standard of living. And now y'all both work together to pay for the standard of living you're in now. You Neither one of you can afford to pay for this place by yourself, but because you're both paying for this place, y'all can sustain what y'all have, no matter how much or how little it is. In that moment, if the relationship turns south, you're caught financially because you're putting all of your money on this place. And typically after your money is spent on the bills or whatever, you're in a fight, you're in an argument, you can't leave because you can't afford to leave. You can't afford to pay for a hotel, you can't afford anything. But a few days before your payday, things start getting better, everybody starts being nice, you start making up, and then after all your money is spent, back to the same cycle. It's like every time you broke, bullshit pops off. Every time you got money in your pocket, everything's quiet. You don't notice it until you start thinking about when the conflict started, not what caused the conflict, but what days out of the week the conflict happens, and what days out of the month the conflicts happen. Because if it always happens right after you get paid, it's a trend, and right after all, or if it doesn't happen after you get paid, if it happens after the last dollar is spent when you don't have enough money to do nothing else. You know what I mean? These scenarios, you can't go anywhere because you just paid the rent for the month. So how are you going to get yourself a new apartment? Then when you're telling yourself, oh, I'm going to move out at the end of the month. And then towards the end of the month, the last 2 weeks of the month or the last 8 days of the month, y'all are making up. Y'all might make up into the next month so that you're already paid the rent for next month and now you're stuck for another 3 weeks. This does happen. So you end up in a situation where you're broke and you can't leave. But we're going to get to that. When you see these glimmers and think they're right there, that's the real them. The anger and the criticism, that's the exception. You assume that the positive them is the real them. And this fucked up ass attitude they've been giving you for the last few weeks, that's not who they really are. You tell yourself, if I can just be a little more patient, a little more understanding, that good person will come back for good, right? But this hope is a mirage. The good moments aren't a sign of progress. They are part of the control. Their purpose isn't to fix the relationship, but to keep your hope alive just long enough so that you don't leave. You're not staying for the person they are right now. You're staying for the person you desperately hope they'll become eventually, or go back to eventually. And that hope is being strategically fed to you one tiny, unpredictable crumb at a time. Now, the other one, step three, is going to be this trap is that gaslighting trap and the erosion of your real reality. So you're just being too sensitive is something that they've told you. And I was giving you guys information on how to combat that yesterday. I've never said that. You're making things up again. You sound crazy right now. You really need help. If phrases like these are common in your life, in your relationships, whether it's your friends, your romantic partners, your family members, you are probably being gaslit. Gaslighting is a sneaky, corrosive mind game where a person makes you doubt your own memory, your perception, and even your sanity will be questioned here. They will flat out deny saying or doing things that they actually did. And they'll rewrite history and then blame you for the very thing they are doing, which discourages you from challenging the scenario and puts you in a position when you do challenge the scenario to apologize for the conflict that you have a problem with, which then pushes you in a position to never even bring it up to begin with because you know that it's not going to end well for you. Over time, this is devastating. You start to second guess everything. Did that really happen, or did I just imagine it? Am I overreacting, or is this a normal response? You end up in a constant state of confusion, a mental fog where you can't tell what's real anymore. This confusion is paralyzing. To make a big decision like leaving, you need clarity and conviction. You need to trust your own judgment that the situation is bad. But gaslighting is designed to destroy that very ability. So when you can't trust your own mind, you become dependent on the abuser's version of reality. They are the one who tells you what's true. Leaving feels impossible because you've been trained to believe that your own read on the situation is wrong. Your own perception, your own observation is wrong. And that maybe you're really the problem, not them, you. And this isn't just an argument, it's the systemic dismantling of your reality to keep you confused and trapped in that situation. On top of the external manipulation, there are powerful mindset traps, deep beliefs, and stories that we tell ourselves about love, responsibility, and who we are. These stories often run so deep we don't even notice them, but they act as a silent narrator, constantly justifying why we have to stay. Now, the fourth trap out of 10 traps is the savior complex. Do you feel like you're the only person who truly gets them? Do you believe that if you just love them a little harder, or support them a little more, or manage their moods just right, they will finally heal and become the wonderful person that you know they can be? This is a savior trap. You're doing this to yourself. But it's especially common for empathetic people, or for those who had to act like a parent when they were extremely young. Those individuals in broken homes where you had to be the adult because you had no responsible adults around you. Maybe you were the oldest or the youngest and you looked after everybody else. If you were the child that was taking care of the parents, got to think about this now. Toxic people often fuel this by playing a victim because you have the problem with the hero complex. If they recognize that, they can put themselves in an observed position of being a victim. And then you, with your hero complex, will proactively save them. Now, here's a problem. They blame their behavior on a tough childhood, a stressful job, or a past trauma. They paint themselves as a wounded soul that only you can save. Your empathy, one of your best qualities, gets turned into a weapon against you. You start to feel responsible for their happiness and their stability. The thought of leaving brings a tidal wave of guilt. You think, if I leave, what will happen to them? Who will take care of them? I can't just abandon them. This is the profound trap. It's built on the false idea that your love can fix another adult. You pour all of your energy into managing their life, walking on eggshells to prevent an outburst, and sacrificing your needs for theirs. Your identity gets completely wrapped up in being their caretaker. You're not a partner anymore. You're a martyr on a mission to save them. But it's a mission that's doomed to fail because you can't save someone who is pulling you under with them. Hello, what is that, Shamela? Good to see you. Interesting name. Did you pick that one yourself? Now, trap number 5. We're going to get started on trap number 5. It reminds me of one of those Bart Simpson phone calls to Moe's Tavern, where you get the person to say the first and last name so that it is pronounced like something else. I know that you thought that was cute when you put that in there. Uh, our 5th trap is going to be normalizing the pain, which is something that a lot of us do. Our brains love what's familiar, so we crave predictability, even if what's predictable is pain. If you grew up in a home with a lot of conflict or criticism, a chaotic relationship can feel strangely normal. Your nervous system may have been wired from a young age to link the intensity of a drama with love. Because it doesn't have that familiar spike of chaos frequently enough. This is a quiet, creeping trap. And irony here is that there's a lot of people that gets involved with this because we find ourselves either dating or choosing to date someone who has this type of mentality. Some of us feel like we have to be dynamic and exciting and keep spice in the lives of a toxic person because they don't know that they're toxic. They just grew up in a toxic environment and they're the product of their environment. If they're not dealing with push and pull behavior, they don't know how to act in the relationship. Not necessarily their fault. But likewise, hero complex. We try to play Captain Save them so that we can go over there and fix the wounds of a lifetime. And that's not something that can be done. They must first recognize that chaos leads to broken relationships and they have to start over. And eventually they have to recognize for themselves that they want boring because boring is stable, boring is safer, boring is better. Instead of having a roller coaster style relationship, you should have a steady incline. But until you get there, you'll start to lower your standards. Little by little, you'll tell yourself all couples fight or no relationship is perfect. You start to see their intense jealousy not as a controlling red flag, but as proof of how much they love you. You see their constant criticism as them just trying to help you be a better person. You downplay how much it hurts because admitting the full extent of the problem would be too terrifying. This leads to the devil you know problem. The pain you're in right now is familiar. It's draining, but you know how to handle it. The alternative, which is leaving, is stepping into a completely unpredictable future. Where would you live? Would you be alone forever? How would you ever start over? Faced with those huge questions, the familiar misery can actually feel safer. You tell yourself you've got this handled, but you're not controlling the situation. You're just adapting to surviving inside the chaos of it. And that false sense of comfort is its own kind of cage. Number 6 is really interesting. The sunk cost fallacy and fearing failure. This one's a lot different than what people would expect. How long have you been in this relationship? Years, right? Maybe decades. Have you built a life together with a home and a shared history? The more time, effort, and love that you pour into something, the harder it is to walk away from it. Now, there's some irony here because in modern debates, those relationship debates, men ask women, what do they bring to the table? What do they put in the relationship? What investment do they have? Because everybody who's got skin in the game's got something to lose. And most women are honest and say that they just bring themselves. Sex, that's it. Cooking, cleaning. But I mean, really, like, what are you leaving behind in this relationship besides the years of being cared for by somebody else? Very few think about how much more satisfying the relationship would be if both sides into the success of the relationship, right? Now, as it pertains to the toxicity of relationships, this is a cognitive bias known as the sunk cost fallacy. Because we believe that because we've already invested so much into this relationship that we have to keep going. Otherwise, everything that we have already put in will have been all wasted. You might think, I've already put 5 years into this. If I leave now, those 5 years mean nothing. Or we've been through so much together already, right? I can't just throw all of that away. And this is a lie that the trap tells you, not the person, the trap that you're stuck in. And those years aren't wasted if you leave. They are the research that led to you having the correct conclusion. This isn't healthy for me. Staying longer doesn't honor your past investment. It just throws more of your precise and precious future directly into the fire after you've already invested so much. It's like watching a stock fall, a growth stock that doesn't pay dividends fall, and keep throwing money into the stock until the stock goes bankrupt. You know this isn't a good idea, but you keep investing in it. Think about that. This is also tied to a deep fear of looking like a failure. Ending a long term relationship is often seen as a personal failing. You worry about what your family and your friends will think. If your job knows about it, if you've built your career and your identity around this relationship, when it ends, you have to face the identity change, which we're going to get more into that later. But the toxic person often uses this fear, accusing you of being selfish or a quitter. They make you feel like staying is the noble thing to do. And to avoid the shame of admitting the relationship didn't work, you might just keep pretending everything is still okay, pretending an image that is really just an empty shell needs protecting. Looks good from the outside, but when the cameras go off, it's worse than an Ike and Tina movie. Sometimes the reason you feel stuck has nothing to do with psychology and everything to do with the cold, hard logic of real life. These practical traps can feel just as impossible to overcome as the emotional ones. They are the tangible chains that lock you in place. Like what Michael was talking about earlier, financial dependence. Let's talk about the money. For many people, men and women alike, this is a trap of all because financial abuse is one of the most effective ways to control someone. Sometimes it's obvious, like your partner forbidding you from working or controlling every dollar in the bank account, or scenarios where they deny you the ability to spend. But often it's more subtle. Maybe they made it difficult for you to keep a job, always calling you on your job, making you leave from your job early, doing things at the house that causes you to go into work late. Um, there's a lot of stuff that can happen that can make your appearance on your job unstable. Then the fact that you're forever in between jobs, you become financially dependent upon them. Um, and then there's situations where children are involved, and then one of you is allegedly got to stay at the house instead of you guys having a schedule to work things out where both of y'all can share the responsibility. One person has to fall on the sword and stay at the house with the kids, and the other one is proactively bringing back all the money to the house, and now you're stuck under the finances of one individual. This happens on both sides, believe it or not. Women are used to hearing the archaic version where the men go to work and the women stay at home, and women don't want to do that. But there are scenarios where the women go to work and the men stay at home, and those are called the domesticated stay-at-home fathers. And I don't know why they have to put extra terms in it when it could just be like he's the one that is taking care of the kids while mom's at work. But there's always something when we throw gender into a title instead of just saying, hey, that one is staying at home. It's like when we say female champion, it's almost like she won for a woman as opposed to she just won. I don't understand that. When they said first black president, it's like, well, he's a president. Doesn't matter what race he is. But when they're like, because for black people, that's normally not possible. So black president, it's insulting. It's supposed to be made as a comment, but to me, it's very insulting when you throw race and gender into the title of success. You're no longer identifying your success. You're identifying your race. or your gender in the success, which is, I don't know. I disagree with it, but these are the things that happen. And it's often more subtle than that because maybe they made it difficult for you to keep that job or convinced you that it was better for the family if you stayed home while they handle the finances, right? Over time, you become completely financially dependent on the other person. The thought of leaving creates a wave of pure panic because how would you pay your own rent, buy groceries? How could you possibly support yourself, let alone children, if you're the one responsible for the children? They might have ruined your credit, buying a bunch of stuff under your name and then letting everything go under. Or they may have been out of the workforce for years, where if you have not done what's in your field for so long, you might feel like your skills are no longer relevant, and going back to work might not be something that you have the motivation to do because you don't believe that you'd be able to be accepted again. The person controlling you knows all of this, and they know that by controlling the money, they control your freedom. So this isn't just a side effect of the relationship, it is a deliberate strategy to keep you trapped. They create a world where staying with the abuse feels like the only way to keep a roof over your head. Recognizing this tactic, seeing it not as care but as coercion, is a critical step towards secretly planning your way out. We're going to be getting to stuff like that down the line. Now, number 8 out of 10, we have the entangled life of kids, home, and friends. Because when your relationship has gone on for a very, very long time, it's rarely just about two people. Your life and their life are woven together. For many, the biggest factor is going to be the kids, the children. You stay for the kids. You tell yourself you're giving them a stable two-parent home, even if that home is full of tension. You're terrified of a messy custody battle, especially for fathers who are not going to have their kids, no matter how many years they fight for them. And the abuser turning the kids against you is always one of the greatest fears. But it happens a lot. The entanglement doesn't stop with the kids, though. You might share a home that you could never afford on your own, like we were talking about earlier in the show. Maybe you even own a business together. Leaving the relationship doesn't mean breaking up, it means losing your home and your job at the same time. And then there's your social lives, because your friends are also their friends. Your families are close to each other. Leaving feels like detonating your entire social world, forcing people you love to choose sides and risking total isolation. Abusers are often masters of public perception, charming and well liked by everyone else, with the abuse happening only behind closed doors. So you worry that no one will believe you, that they'll take the abuser's side, and you'll be left completely alone. This isolation is often part of the plan. By cutting you off from outside support, they make themselves your entire world. Now, we've covered the mind games and the practical barriers, but now we need to go a little deeper into the strange and counterintuitive reasons that people stay, because these are traps that are shrouded in shame and silence, the ones that you might not admit to yourself, but also extremely impactful, and definitely they exist. The loss of identity. When you're in a toxic relationship for a long time, your life starts to revolve around it. It can become your main identity, your role as the forgiving partner, the loyal one, the one who never gives up. This becomes who you are. Your entire day is spent managing their moods, anticipating their needs, and navigating their drama. You become an expert on them. So when you think about leaving, terrifying question comes up. Who am I without them? You'll find this same experience when you're growing up and you're taking care of your siblings. Your whole identity is that you look after your siblings. If you've taken care of your parents, you retired your parents at a young age, and you're paying for your parents' standard of living, bringing them to doctors and this, that, and the third, your identity is the caretaker for your parents. When your siblings no longer need you and when your parents die off, who are you? You no longer make decisions. I can't go to certain places because I have to be available for them. You now make decisions based on whether or not you actually want to go. Even if you wanted to go, you can't go because you have this burden of taking care of someone else. But if you didn't want to go, you had the crutch of having to take care of somebody else. So are you not going because you don't want to go, or are you not going because you have an obligation that is beyond your ability to abandon? You can't even decide who you are until after you are no longer dependent on this codependent identity. Right? Leaving isn't just losing a partner. It can feel like the death of your own identity. You're facing a total void here. And for years, your purpose has been tied to this struggle. Without it, what will you do? What will you even think about? Who will you be? Midlife crisis comes out the same way. When you've lived a certain lifestyle and made certain decisions for the sake of the kids, and now the kids are 22, they've all gone off to college, they're living on their own, they don't need you anymore. All the money you used to spend on the children's decisions, toys, games, fun, all this other stuff, not there. Now you got extra money going around. What do? Buy you a fucking Camaro. Get you a Corvette with no top. Buy you a Harley. Travel America. Midlife crisis stuff. Because you no longer have the purpose or the duty that you were stuck with for 8, 10, 20, 18 years. Right? And this identity crisis is a powerful, paralyzing force. Sticking with the known identity of the one who endures can feel safer than the terrifying blank page of who you might become next. Now, trap number 10 is the spiritual bypass. Now, this is a modern and very powerful trap. In a search for meaning, it can be tempting to reframe intense pain as a sign of deep spiritual importance. You might tell yourself that this isn't a toxic relationship, it's a twin flame connection. Chaos isn't abuse, it's the intense energy of two souls that are destined to be together. The pain you're feeling isn't pointless, it's a karmic lesson that you have to learn before you can move on. How much fucking time are you going to spend getting your ass beat to learn that you need to stop getting your ass beat? But this kind of spiritual language provides a noble sounding reason for staying. It elevates the dysfunction to a higher purpose. Red flags aren't seen as warnings, they are cosmic tests of your commitment. The intense highs and lows of the trauma bond are mistaken for proof of a rare, fated connection. The idea of leaving feels like you'd be betraying your destiny or failing a spiritual test. Now, this is a dangerous trap known as the spiritual bypass. Using spiritual ideas to avoid dealing with real world psychological pain. While it's healthy to find lessons in our experiences, using concepts like twin flames to justify ongoing abuse keeps you stuck. It tells you that your suffering is not only necessary, but sacred. True growth doesn't ask you to sacrifice your safety and sanity for a painful connection. It empowers you to choose peace and to walk away from anything that consistently hurts your spirit. I said earlier that we had 10 traps, but here goes trap number 11. There's more. Y'all know about that creative and social media entanglement, right? What happens when your relationship has become content? Maybe couples and friends are now branded online. Maybe you have a YouTube channel together, a popular TikTok, or a perfectly curated Instagram feed that tells a story of a happy, ideal partnership. Y'all see those couple relationships on social media. This public story creates immense pressure to keep up the appearance. Those 30-second shorts of how awesome their relationship is, those 3-minute reels of the highlights of their relationship, is not the other 23 hours and 55 minutes of their day, every day that they haven't posted a new video. Right? But leaving doesn't just mean a private heartbreak, it means a public announcement and facing questions from thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of followers. It could even damage your income if the relationship is monetized. The shame of a public failure can be paralyzing. The relationship stops being real and becomes a performance. And you can get trapped by the pressure to keep the show going long after the connection is far gone. A similar thing happens in creative partnerships. Maybe you are in a brand together or co-founders of a startup. Your creative and financial lives are completely tied together. There's a popular myth that great art requires great pain. And it's easy to get started believing that the toxic dynamic is what fuels your creativity. You're worried that if you leave the relationship, you'll kill the art or destroy your career. This makes leaving feel like a professional and creative suicide, forcing you to choose between your well being or your life's work. The first step to freedom is seeing the cage. We have just walked through a whole maze of traps, all 11 of them out of 10. But you recognize the psychological, practical, and personal traps that you navigate through in these toxic relationships. And not all of them have anything to do with what someone else does to you. It's what you do to yourself that someone else sees and capitalizes on. Huge difference. And if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, just take a breath, because that feeling of being tangled in a web is real, because it is a web. It's not just one thing. It's the trauma bond reinforced by money, complicated by shared friends, justified by the belief that you're their savior, and cemented by the fear of losing yourself. Most people feel stuck because several of these forces are at work all at the same time. The first impulse is to look for a step-by-step escape plan. We've got a lot of them on this show. Just got to go back to them. But the most powerful first step, the one that has to happen before anything else, is what you're doing right now: seeing the cage clearly. For so long, you have probably been blaming yourself. You've been asking, why am I not strong enough to leave? Or what is wrong with me? Understanding these traps allows you to ask different questions. The question isn't what is wrong with me. The question is what forces have been put in place to keep me stuck here. This shifts from self blame to understanding the system, and that is going to be everything for you. It takes the shame right off your shoulders. You're not weak, you've been systematically trapped. Not necessarily by somebody else. You could have been trapped by your own design, but the fact is you're not crazy here. You've been gaslit in some situations, and you're not a failure. You're caught in a complex dynamic design that is going to hold you exactly where you need to be, codependently, in an unhealthy fashion, towards someone else that is not benefiting your success. Now, this knowledge is your first tool for liberation. It is the light that finally lets you see the invisible bars. It doesn't magically open the door, but it allows you to see the locks for the very first time. And it allows you to stop fighting against yourself and start strategizing against the real problem. Every trap we've talked about today has a very simple, uh, easily accessible in some situations key. But the key is to financial dependence, have a secret savings plan. The key to isolation is a single, quiet phone call to a trusted friend or a hotline. The key to the identity crisis is rediscovering one small hobby that was always just yours. Now, I want to step back to that secret savings plan because I know a lot of women used to go out there and go and get that escape fund by siphoning money from their boyfriend and putting it into their escape fund. I'm going to be honest with you. You should never steal money from your relationship and put it into a secret savings account. However, if all parties agree that this amount of money you can do whatever you want with, and that amount of money, whether it's given to you weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever, you put it into a savings account so that when it's time for you to get up out of there, you get up out of there. You didn't take anything that nobody knew you had. You just didn't waste it on something else. You put it where when you needed it, you had it. That is highly encouraged. Whether you have discretionary spending out of your primary paycheck, or if your spouse gives you an allowance and that you take that allowance and you put it into the account. Whatever you do, as long as you're not removing money out of the account under the false identity of making purchases for stuff and then putting it somewhere else, as long as that's not happening, you know, build yourself an account. But leaving is a process, not a single event. It often takes a few tries. The journey out doesn't start with a packed bag sometimes. It starts with a shift in your mind first. It starts with the quiet, firm internal statement that I see what's happening now, and this is not my fault, and I deserve better. And you might need to have that conversation with yourself in front of the mirror every day until you're ready to go. And if you made it this far, it isn't because some part of you is ready to face the truth. You've spent so long feeling confused, ashamed, and powerless, wondering why you can't just walk away, and now you know. You've been caught in one of the most complex webs one person can weave for another, which is a web of emotional addiction, financial control, and crushing hope. So please let this be the moment that you stop blaming yourself. Your struggle isn't a sign of weakness, it is proof of how strong the forces you're up against really are. But knowledge is power. G.I. Joe. And by understanding the mechanics of the trap, by seeing the gaslighting, the financial chains, and the trauma bonds for what they are. You have already started to take all of this complex webbing and take all of these lock chains apart. You are going to start taking your own story back, and you're moving from a place of confusion to a place of clarity. And with clarity comes a power to make a different choice. And your journey out of this scenario is going to be your own journey, like your own little Lord of the Rings path. But you don't have to walk it by yourself. Like Frodo, if any of this sounds familiar, you guys have to make sure that you take it upon yourselves to share your thoughts in the comment section. Because reading this from someone else is going to empower them. If someone else is going through the same thing that you're going through, this can be incredibly motivating. Because for people who feel alone, to know that they're not the only one going through this, that is life changing. And if you want to continue this path of healing, you have to make sure that you guys take it upon yourselves to like and subscribe to the show, because we will be here walking you through all of the ways that you can take the next steps towards reclaiming your life, your worth, and your future. Because actually, when I think about it, coming next week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we're going to be talking about how you guys can budget in a relationship, both individually and together. Where for those of you that are actually both working jobs together, where you got a job and your partner's got a job, you guys have the capabilities of investing more effectively. And no matter how long you're in a relationship, typically once you cross over $5,000, you got enough money to go somewhere else, while you don't have enough money to sustain what you do if you don't get the right budget. The fact is that there's always another way to go. You didn't put away, since we started our dividend rotation strategy, if you put away 15 grand, you've got enough money to leave. You can just cash in on your whole stock portfolio and just walk out the next day or as soon as it clears the bank. But the fact is that doing it jointly and doing it individually, where now that I think about it, having a third budget is good, because budget one is if you're able to individually invest when you're in a relationship. Budget two is when you're able to invest with your partner. But budget three is when you're able to do both, where you're saving for yourself, but you're also saving for the relationship. So if the relationship falls short, whatever y'all don't split, you got your own on the other side, which is beneficial for situations like this. But you got to remember that you deserve to feel safe, respected, and free. And the only way that you're going to do that is if you proactively take it upon yourself to recognize the things that you are not happy with in your life and make the necessary changes that are inside of your control to make yourself happy. And the changes that you make is about what you do and what you allow to happen in front of you. You cannot change what other people say and how other people behave. You can ask them if they will make certain adjustments, talk to you better, be more present, but it is up to them to make the changes that satisfy you. When you recognize that you have a partner that more often than not does not behave the way you would prefer for them to behave, it is your choice to stay, but it's also your choice to leave. If you got your own little calendar on your cell phone where you put an X on that calendar for every day that's a good day and leave blank every day that's not a good day, and you count up out of 30 days how many X's you got on that, if you don't have 30 X's, you might want to start rethinking your situation. If you don't have 15 X's, you might want to start rethinking your situation. Grade your month like you grade a test. If you're not doing 85% good month, you might want to start rethinking your situation. It's a failed relationship when it starts getting to 70%. C's make presidents, but C's don't make scholars. So if you start getting into 70% on a monthly basis, you start asking yourself, well, what's going wrong with this relationship? Because not every day is going to be perfect. Some days are going to be boring. Nothing happens. Some days are going to be better than others, where something good happens, or something better than the norm happens. And then there are going to be days that are not so good. And then there's going to be days that's worse than that. And out of the 4 different categories, you want to make sure that you are happier than you are sad, that you are calmer than you are angry and frustrated, that you are at peace more than you're anxious, that you feel safe more than you're scared. And it is your responsibility to find the balance. Technically, that should be a seesaw that is all on one side. But if there's going to be some back and forth action, you need to make sure that you have less negative in your life than positive. And that requires you to identify how you're being treated versus how you treat yourself, because no one else can love you more than you love yourself. No one can respect you more than you respect yourself. No one can appreciate you more than you appreciate yourself. No one can value you more than you value yourself. So if you do not hold value in yourself, you may very well find yourself in a situation where you're allowing yourself to be devalued by someone else, which would have the byproduct of you feeling less worthy. Why put yourself through that? You're worth more than that. So with that being said, I told y'all we didn't have a lot going on for y'all for today, but I want to make sure that y'all stick with us for the rest of the week, because I'm going to start putting up all of the rest of next week between tonight and tomorrow, so that y'all will be able to see Sunday through Friday at the very least. I'm going to try to get them up there over the next 24 hours. So make sure, if you haven't done so already, make sure that you guys take the opportunity to like and subscribe. And ladies, I tell y'all on a regular basis, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to keep asking you ladies to make it make sense. So ladies, please make it make sense. And fellas, I give you this information to help you guys become higher value men. But while this is a male-driven podcast, ladies, y'all too can take this information and make yourselves higher value women. You just have to, as I've told you many times tonight, prioritize the things that make your life better, and then navigate around the things that are outside of your control. I want to thank you guys for coming to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'll see you guys tomorrow night.
Chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command.